Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live on this all-day event. Today we're going to take a slight detour away from the cannabis space into the mining space. We have a surprise guest in that he was not on the original itinerary, and Nick Brodie is the CEO of Galane Gold.
That's right. Well pronounced.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ticker is GG, I believe.
GG on the TSXV. So tell us, Nick, Galane Gold's operating in Botswana and in South Africa.
So look, Ravi was here about a month ago and had a good chat with you. And,
yes.
And we've had some good news flow through since then, so I thought it was worth coming and having another chat.
Awesome.
So in the last couple of weeks, we announced that we closed the financing on the Galaxy.
Okay.
So we've raised $5 million in debt. We closed a $2 million US equity, and we've got $3 million in cash flows, and we're going to put that back into production probably April 2019.
Fantastic.
7,000 ounces next year, ramping up to 26,000 ounces at an all-in of around 900.
So okay, that's
good. Add that to Mopani, which is around 30,000 ounces a year at all-in of 1,050. And in 2020, you've got a 56,000 ounce producer at an average all-in of around 1,000.
Wow, and we're starting to see some cooperation in the gold price finally.
It's come up a little bit, you know. Ravi's a big bull.
Yeah.
I'm a finance guy. I concentrate on the costs.
Right.
I can't do anything about gold.
Right.
Yeah, I've got to worry.
Costs you can control. Price of gold you can't. Interesting. So, in terms of operationally, like, where are the risks in these projects?
So Mopani, there's no risk to me. That's a mature mine. You know, if you know Botswana, Botswana's a great place to do business. It's always top 10 in the Fraser Index of places in the world to go mining. Yeah, so it's a different Africa.
Right.
I've worked in the Congo with Katanga Mining. I've worked in Zimbabwe. You know, I've been to these places. Trust me, Botswana's lovely. Yeah.
Really? Is it?
It's a game drive to work every morning.
Huh.
Yeah.
And do you live there?
I live there 50% of the time.
Right.
Based in London, but you know, I fly around the world wherever I'm needed.
Right.
And it's a mature mine. So now we've gone underground, which was the big thing we needed to do to reduce costs. And it's we replace what we mine now.
Sure.
So I see that as a mature asset with very little risk. South Africa, we've de-risked it as much as we can. You know, there's always a political risk in South Africa. I understand that. But you know, part of the financing meant we had to get a new order mining license. We've done all the environmental. We have an economic partner. We've done everything we can to de-risk. Also, it's the greenstone belt. We're greenstone miners. And it's the same greenstone that we're mining in Botswana. So we understand it. Metallurgically, the mining method will be the same. The mining contractor we're using is exactly the same mining contractor. So in my mind, we've de-risked it a huge amount. The last key to that, and was something we signed a couple of weeks ago, was an offtake agreement. Because we're going to be producing a concentrate.
Right.
So the ore is highly refractory, which it's got sulfur in it. So recovery is around 55% if you run it through a normal CIL plant. But as we're selling it as a concentrate, we're going to get 75%. Yeah?
Okay.
Which is the recovery we get at Mopani producing gold ore.
Right.
So I've added 20% revenue on the top end.
Yeah.
On top of that, I've reduced my operating costs because no longer am I running the CIL plant.
Right.
I don't have to buy the cyanide, etc. So it's unlocked a lot of value there and made it a very, you know, good proposition for us.
Interesting. What's the sort of the blue sky in terms of exploration potential at these projects?
So look, Mopani, another bit of news we put out 2 weeks ago. So thanks for asking.
Right.
We've signed a farming agreement with B2Gold.
Right. Okay.
We have over 1,000 square kilometers of exploration land.
Yeah.
We just didn't have the money to go out there and explore ourselves. So B2 and their geology team were actually the team that found Mopani. So they know it very well.
Wow.
Yeah. Approached us.
Serendipity.
Approached us and said, look, we'd like to do some exploration. We think there's a $1 million+ mineable resource there, and we're going to do that work. So they're going to pay $4 million over the next 3 years for a 70.
Like a 50-50 deal? Is that?
So no, for that $4 million, they'll get 70% of the joint venture that we formed just on the exploration. So Mopani as a mining operation carries on. They don't have any play in that. So we could end up with a 30% free carry and a 100,000 ounce plus producer. Let's say they don't find that asset. It does happen, it's exploration. Maybe they only find a 400,000. That's great for me because they're going to give it back to me. And they're going to walk away, and then I'll be 100% owner in a 400,000 ounce resource, which is just going to add to Mopani's life.
Sounds like you got the numbers figured out quite well here, Nick.
Yeah. So do you own 100% of Mopani with no royalty?
Yeah, 100%. There's a 5% royalty in Botswana.
5% royalty to the government?
To the government, yeah.
What kind of mine life do you have in these producers?
So if we look at Mopani, it's I call it a 4+. Okay, so the resource we've got there, I can only talk about a 4-year life.
Right.
But as I said, as I'm mining, I'm replacing. So if I'm a mature underground mine, I'm going to tell you next year I'm going to have another press release saying I've added another year.
Right.
Yeah, and the year after that I'm going to say I've added another year. So I can only talk about 4, but I think it's got a long life in front of it.
You think like at least 10?
At least 10. You know, when we acquired it in 2011, we were told it only had 1 year life. So here we are in 2018.
Yeah, right.
I'm talking about a 4+. So,
Wow.
you know, I've proved that the resource is there, and then you can extend the mine life.
So I'm curious about the risks in South Africa. Not to belabor the point, I'm sure you get this all the time, but you've got your labor risk, you've got your electricity, access to electricity risk, you've got the broader political risks. And how do all of these things get managed by a small company like Galane?
So you've got us wrong.
Oh, okay.
So you're thinking of a deep Witsrand mine
Uh-huh.
in Johannesburg with a huge workforce, narrow veins, yeah? We're not. We're up in the hills in Barberton, right next to the Kruger National Park.
Oh,
yeah?
okay.
Added access, stoping, mechanized mining. You know, we have 170 people at Mopani. We'll probably have a similar amount of people working for us at Galaxy. So even though we're talking about 26,000 ounces, we're not going to have a huge workforce. A lot of that's going to be subcontracted. I'm a great believer in bringing other people in. They're doing what's best.
Right.
Yeah. So again, I'm not really concerned about that side that you imagine of
Right.
a political risk. I mean, the political risk is there in a way because of the empowerment. Yeah.
Right.
But you know, there've been the new guy in charge has done some good things. He's pulled back on some of the changes that were proposed and taken it back to 26%.
Right.
And I think it's moving in the right direction.
Interesting.
Now you're planning on doing some production in Australia as well, right?
So yeah, another press release that went out in the last couple of weeks is we've announced the potential acquisition of Andy Wells. That was an asset that was in production up to November 2017. Went into production in 2013. We put a plan together, put it back in at 50,000 ounces a year at an Aussie all-in at about 1450. The acquisition is complete at the end of January, but we're doing a technical report at the moment and a PEA with Snowden, a big company, just to
Right.
prove our view.
So you're saying your cost will be 1450
Aussie dollar.
Aussie dollars.
So
which,
gold in Australia is 1,700 Aussie dollars, yeah?
Right.
Okay.
So it's a profitable operation.
Right.
But it's got huge potential. At the moment it's got 350,000 ounces, but it's open at depth. But it fits our model. It's greenstone. It was a bit
well,
of...
how do you get this? How did you get that contact? Like, what's your?
So we've been, we're looking for the next asset. We're trying, I've got a strong management team that I brought on board. We turn around Mopani. The idea is to get Galaxy working, turn that around, find the next asset. So the Australian asset to me is the next asset. So we've been looking around for greenstone, which is our skill set, and underground mining. Yeah. And there's greenstone all over the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people say to me, why don't you go to West Africa? Do you know how long it takes me to get to West Africa from South Africa? 2 days. Do you know how long it takes me to get to Australia from South Africa?
Day and a half.
12 hours.
Oh yeah.
Close, Ed.
So it's actually closer for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Than going up to West Africa. So,
Yeah.
people need to realize it's and also a lot of the South Africans are in Australia now. So I got
Why does it take you 2 days to go from South Africa to West Africa?
Because you've got to fly all the way to Europe and back out again.
Really?
Yeah.
There's no planes directly from...
No, flying.
Come on.
No.
That's fascinating. So then, the Mopani mine is now a profitable operating gold mine.
Yeah.
And is it safe to say that Galane is going to specialize in acquiring smaller, it sounds like you're not looking for the 5 million ounce behemoth that you're going to upsell to, Rand Gold or
We're
something?
not an exploration company, we're a production company, yeah?
Right.
But
Yeah.
we're going to build on the production. So the first asset we got is 30,000.
Yeah.
Galaxy, I see it could be a potential 60 to 70,000 ounces. There's a great opportunity to scale that up again very easily. And then, Andy Wells was historically a 90,000 ounce producer. We get there again. So we're building the size of companies that we're taking over.
Nick was saying to me that if they get to the 100,000 ounce,
Yep.
and then gold moves up $100,
Yeah.
that's an extra 10 million a year cash flow.
Yeah.
That's that simple.
So that's why when Robbie first told me about this, he was asking me, what can you do to help a gold mining company? I said, well, generally not much. He said, well, this one's a little different. He told me about it. I said, well, that one's, if anything can be moved, certainly Galane Gold can. It sounds like a great story.
Yeah, it is a great story. It is a great story, but I've observed a couple of smaller producers. There's one in Nevada that's having problems because I think they're running out of ore.
Right.
And the other one's the one in in Newfoundland, Anaconda. And Anaconda has done nothing in terms of you know, the stock situation.
Right.
So you need gold moving in the right direction.
Gold moving in the right direction is great for us. Yeah, and my view is stay in the game because gold's going to come back to us.
Yeah.
Just a matter of time.
Yeah. No, he lives in London, England, so I'm going to have him talk to Peter Cunningham.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's an international community around here.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, that's a great update on the story. We're going to actually send our cameraman down there in November.
I'm looking forward to it.
We've got to coordinate while you're here. And so we'll come back to you in about a quarter's time or live from one of your projects down there. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, guys.
We're going to take a look at Cronos Group's CEO, Mike Gorenstein, was here briefly, and here's what he had to say. Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live on this Legalization Day. It's Mike Gorenstein is here. He's the CEO of Cronos Group. Mike, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Mike, tell me, how has legalization changed the outlook for Cronos?
This is something we've been looking forward to for a long time. We're extremely excited about. You know, for us, it's really a watershed moment, and it means a few things. I think the first, the world is watching Canada, and we really believe that this is something that's going to be a huge catalyst. There's a global tailwind that we see, and this gives us the opportunity not just to start getting products out into Canada and start being able to really feed customers that we've been looking forward to for years, but also to pilot products and being able to scale them across our global platform as other markets come online and take Canada's lead and follow it.
Cool. So there's two camps out there. One camp says that this is all going to end in tears like the dot-com era and the market's overbought and it's just a matter of time. Then there's the other side that says no, this is actually the evolution of a product the likes of which humanity has never seen before, and this is just the beginning. Which camp are you in?
I'm in the latter, and I would say that it's the evolution of a product, but it's one that at least the base of it, the original sort of non-disruptive product, the world has seen, and the world certainly uses, and there's a ton of demand for it. So I think we're going to see that continued progress as we get into more innovative form factors. You'll see this market continue to grow. And if you're looking at it and I think people just start looking at the industry and go, well, let's look at where things are and how many people are in Canada, but you miss that the Canadian LPs are really global companies now, and this is just an opportunity to keep expanding. And we're very excited. It's really still the beginning.
Well, all right. So where can we buy Cronos products as of October 17th?
You'll be able to either go into stores in Nova Scotia, PEI. You can, of course, go into a store in BC or order online. Same with Ontario, and then medical patients across Canada. And unless you have viewers in Germany,
right?
We'll stick with just Canada today.
Very cool. So you brought some product here.
Yeah, I brought you a gift for October 17th. It's
look at that. That's gorgeous packaging. Is this something that one can purchase? Whoa, whoa! Functional food. I see what you mean. It's a chocolate bong. How about that? Now, is this something that we can buy online at Cronos right now?
This is not. This is when we think of Cove, the brand, it's really about making each experience a discovery. So you'll see a lot of things where it's not, again, just selling flower. It's discovering new experiences. We really take an explorer mindset. And so there are a lot of different things we do with the brand. It's really overall about building this relationship with the consumers, focusing on the experience, and we have a lot of interesting things in store.
Sure. So this isn't something I could actually pack that bowl full and light her up, is it?
You should. I think you probably can.
Really?
Yeah.
Wouldn't melt the chocolate? No, I guess not.
No.
Eh?
It's
interesting.
I mean, look, we can't infuse chocolate for another year or so. It doesn't mean that you can't, but
good point.
What you do, we're disclaiming anything, so that's up to you.
Sure. One of the questions I'm asking all the LPs on this historic day is: are you guys going to be in the market of supplying clones to people who want to grow at home, or seeds or anything like that?
It's something we actually do for medical patients through Peace Naturals, and we have for quite a long time. But as far as the recreational market, our focus is really on flower, pre-rolls, and oil.
So if I was a medical patient client of Cronos, I could order 4 clones?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, well, I'm going to sign up tomorrow. I'm feeling very painful in my back. Interesting. So you guys have really started to make some lateral moves in the industry, and I'm really interested particularly in the Ginkgo Bioworks one because of the implications. And obviously the sort of objective of that is sub-penny per gram of input cost for cannabinoids or something like that. Is that accurate?
You know, for us, the objective, we really think about, you know, what's the vision, where do we want to end up? You know, cost of production is really execution of that vision. And for us, it's being able to have something that's consistent, something that's scalable, and really something that allows us to differentiate the products. So being able to get access to these other cannabinoids, you know, THCV, CBC is very, very important to being able to give people different experiences. And it's really that focus on different occasions that we care about. And certainly, you know, in order to do that and make the products affordable, it does help to be able to have a more efficient, you know, input cost.
Right. So tell me about how the Ginkgo system works. Like, what is the process that they actually employ? I know I'm comparing it, for the sake of comparison, to Hyacinth Bio, who grows cannabinoids using genetically modified yeasts and enzymes. How does that compare to Ginkgo's system?
So, you know, Ginkgo, it's a unique platform. It's an established sort of it's the largest printer of DNA in the world. So between 38 and 40% of the world's DNA is actually printed by Ginkgo. And really what they're doing, they have this metagenomic library. And if you think, you know, what a metagenomic library is, all these different organisms in nature, and it's really a database they can search through. And what we've been doing at Cronos over the last year and a half, 2 years, is doing genomic sequencing of all the different genetics that we have. And we've mapped out the actual metabolic pathways, how the biosynthetic pathway, how is THC produced, how is CBD produced, what enzymes, what mutations change that efficiency. We're then cross-referencing it, and about a quarter of Ginkgo is actually their computer programmers. Right? So it was founded by 5 MIT PhDs and mixed between biologists and artificial intelligence guys. So it's really the sorting through that data and then figuring out what are the most efficient genes really that you're going to put into a cell, and you're printing different DNA sequences. And what's unique about Ginkgo is really the speed at which they can test out these strains. You know, so tens of thousands, you know, in a month, and it's the highest throughput we've seen. So you're basically siphoning through all these different potential strains and picking what the most efficient one is. And similar to, you know, Hyacinth, any company that would biosynthesize really anything, you're using engineered yeast. But what's really important isn't just the yeast, it's what's the actual DNA you're printing. So rather than doing this by hand, like PhDs would do, you know, going, okay, let's move liquid to liquid and see what happens, you're using a whole system of automation, robots, and really computer program to be able to accelerate that.
So better chance of knowing what you're going to get as opposed to seeing what you get after the fact.
Right, it's increasing your shots on goal, and I think that's what's important, and really half of the work is done because of what they've done with terpenes.
Sure.
And I think we've talked about before what they did with Robert A. and rose oil, and being able to make these different terpenes, and you know that's applicable. You can use a lot of that technology, a lot of that code base. You know, it's just like, you know, computer programming, right? When a lot of the work for a website's already done, you can still pull from that code.
Right.
And DNA is really just a code.
Interesting. So then does that mean at some point in the near future I'm going to be able to look at my wall and say, joint, White Widow, 15%, joint size, you know, X for one, and it pops up like a replicator on Star Trek?
Well, what we're doing, if you think about what White Widow is, right? Like, what do any of these strains mean? And there's probably 50 different White Widows. You know, what is it? It's really, you pick a strain, and if you want to know what's really in that strain, you take it a HPLC machine, you go in one of the labs, and you can test it out. And you
HPLC?
Yeah, it's one of the methods for lab testing.
Okay.
So you go to a lab, you test something out, and you find out there's X% THC, CBD, CBC, THCV, and a lot of these minor cannabinoids really do, it's what people refer to as the entourage effect, but they really, it's like the ingredient list. So once you understand that ingredient list, you could pick the best White Widow you've ever had, and as long as we have the opportunity to take that, test it, we can then replicate that using different cannabinoids and terpenes.
Okay.
So we won't actually be making the flower.
Right.
Flower still be grown and, you know.
Okay, so you're just making the elements.
So right, so one of the things we do now is strain-specific extraction. So our oils will replicate the effects you would have from the flower because we take out the terpenes, take out the cannabinoids, and we then recombine them to give you, that same experience. We can then, instead of having to extract from the plant, accomplish the same goal by using biosynthesis.
So I guess this has profound implications for medical science in that we identified some of these minor cannabinoids have a very positive effect on certain cancers and other sort of life-threatening illnesses.
Absolutely.
And is that sort of part of Cronos's game plan, is to focus on perhaps the generation of proprietary molecules that you can patent as a medical sort of biopharma company as a result of this relationship?
That's certainly a part of a bigger picture strategy. What we're actually doing right now, these cannabinoids, they exist in the plant today. And one of the things that's important for path to market is that under the Health Canada regs and what we expect those regs will be mimicked elsewhere, is it's a phytocannabinoid. So the THC that we're producing is identical to the THC that you would get from a plant. It's not a synthetic. It's just biosynthesis happens inside of plants.
Sure.
So we're really producing the same cannabinoids. It's just the efficiency and the purity that we're able to accomplish it at. And instead of having to build massive grow facilities and massive extraction labs everywhere around the world, we can go to use existing infrastructure and really replicate it. But what's important is, how do those cannabinoid mixtures work together to deliver the effects you're talking about? What we've seen is it's not just cannabinoid isolates. So that's actually work we're doing in Israel right now for topicals, for example. We're actually creating organoids, which basically is we're creating a cell. So you create a disease cell with acne, for example, and once we have this organoid, we're using all these different iterations of cannabinoids in isolation and in combination to understand what actually will unblock pores. So it's the same thing, you're using data and you're getting more shots on goal. Rather than having a theory, testing it out over years, we can actually accelerate that model.
That is some fascinating shit right there, I gotta say. So how soon till you actually roll out a product with biosynthesized cannabinoids in lieu of plant-generated cannabinoids?
Sure, so we say 3 years is the timeline for commercial scale. Now what we've seen is that can rapidly accelerate, especially given Ginkgo's platform. That's a sort of an assumption based off of how many iterations till we get to what we think is the optimal strain. It's possible that it's earlier, but I think that's the time frame that we use, and it's probability, not a certainty.
Right.
It's not, but that's I think our best estimate.
Okay. Well, it sounds like, as ever, you guys have a million things going on, and it's fascinating to hear about it all the time. Mike, we'll come back to you again in due course. Thanks for joining me today.
All right, hey, thanks for having me.
Here we go.
There you go. What do you think?
Well, it's a historic day nonetheless. I guess every day is historic in a sense.
We're historic. I'm feeling historic. Did you buy any cannabis online today, Edward?
No.
No?
Well, no, because my friends buy it and I just get it from them.
I see. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Huh.
Although I did walk into a, I gotta be careful what I say. I may end up going to jail.
You might end up going to jail. Why? Are you doing illegal activities?
No.
That's good. We'll bust your ass right here, right now.
No, I did acquire a little cannabis last night at the
events.
No.
No?
At the dispensary.
Oh, the dispensary's
Just
still
wanted to see if
open.
it was still there.
And?
It was there.
Yeah, well, we were looking at the dispensaries on Weed Maps, and the ones that deliver are still there. The ones that, some of the storefronts are still there operating, so don't know.
I think we should have a little dispensary right here.
I don't think so, Ed.
Look at the money we'll make.
We're going to be dispensing our own cannabis out the door with our partners who are configuring our own proprietary strains, don't you know?
Let's see where the action is here today, James.
All right, Ed, looking at the, oh, you know what, I'm going to need my NDI up here.
Let's here, my advice is...
oh, you're going to give some advice now.
Well, not...
This is the look right now, Ed. The sell-off is more or less stabilized at between 2 and 3.5%. It's still ugly and red.
Yeah.
Just see if any of our near and dear ones turned to the bright green color of love that we know and cherish and worship.
Well, there's got to be some green ones for sure.
Well, Afria. Look at Afria. Let's order these in order of performance. Afria is up 5.8% now.
That's big.
Now, what is that telling you? On a down day,
on a shitty day, that's telling me
That they're about to announce a tobacco deal?
Something's going to get
What?
maybe.
You didn't hear?
Maybe,
You didn't know?
You know what?
I heard Free is buying Marlboro.
I hear they're buying they're moving into a building on Tobacco Road.
On Tobacco Road. Better not go down Tobacco Road. How does that song go? I don't know.
You surely don't know.
So I heard that Free was going to buy Marlboro and Coca-Cola.
Together.
And then they were going to partner with Diageo and basically take over the world.
There you go.
Yeah. There's a forward-looking statement.
Green Organic.
There's a little rumor for the Globe and Mail. Green Organic Dutchman also put on 24 cents today, up 4.36%. Now, this is an interesting situation. We know this company has an absolute mountain of stock coming out of a 6-month hold period in mid-November, and I'm quite impressed with its ability to hold this value right now. Are you not?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I am.
Well, that's good. Ed, you know what we're going to do right now is we are going to going to talk to Rob Bebenek. Rob Bebenek is our new in-house funny man, and he was on the street yesterday. Here's what he had to say.
How's your sales pitch? Terrible. Perfect. Excuse me. We're just asking. Really? I don't have time. All right. It's not for it. I'm okay, thank you. You sure? Yeah. Over 2. I guess we're done here. Excuse me. Could I ask you a couple questions about? No. Could I ask you a couple questions about the cannabis legalization? No. Okay. Sweet. Nobody really wants to talk to me, or I guess I don't know. Why doesn't anybody want to talk? I just want to ask a few questions about a perfectly legal drug, and everyone's got this fucking attitude about it. It's like, sorry, I can't take 5 seconds of your time, ask a stupid question about something that you're probably doing, you're going home to do right now anyways. Lighten up, Toronto. Excuse me, do you guys have any opinions on the cannabis legalization? No? Okay. They don't care. Nobody cares. It's like, can't go anywhere without talking about it, but you try and talk to a stranger on the street, they think you're a psychopath. That's what's happening here. It's a lady with a broken leg coming. Excuse me, do you have any opinions on the cannabis legalization? No? Huh? Okay. That's great. Excuse me, do you have any opinions on the cannabis legalization? No? No, she doesn't either. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this at all. Excuse me, do you guys have any opinions on the cannabis legalization? They don't. Nobody does. Nobody gives a shit. Fuck it. Make it illegal again. Excuse me. We're asking people just questions about legalization. Are you interested in answering just a couple of questions? It won't take long. Just like a...
Can I smoke?
You can totally smoke.
Oh.
We're outdoors.
Yeah.
Are you into that sort of thing? Is that?
I mean, most certainly. I mean, I'm sure most people are.
But are you?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
All right.
of course,
I'm not a cop.
100%. Okay. Yeah. Just making sure on that.
But it's okay now.
Yeah. Well, now that it's legal, I mean, I'm sure that it's going to be accepted by a whole bunch more people. It's more so, I think, the older generation that they're kind of trying to weave into the whole thing. I mean, young people are already into it.
You think there's still a stigma attached to like older people?
Most certainly, but I think that this is breaking down a lot of barriers towards that. I mean, you know, I have a whole bunch of parents who maybe 5-10 years ago would have been completely against it, but now it's sort of like in the day and age. So,
do your parents get high?
My parents do not get high, unfortunately, but they don't banter me as much, right?
They don't give you flack for it?
Yeah, you know. I'm sure my mom could use a joint now and then, you know.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Mom, chill out and get high.
You know, all parents could, you know, friendly reminder to all parents, just once in a while, just smoke a joint. Take these off.
You heard it here first. Parents get high. That's what you. So you moved here to get a bit high, but you haven't tried it yet.
Nope,
you're waiting for it to be all clear.
So
do you think you might now that it's legal?
I might try edibles. I'm not sure. I don't know how that will affect my work. So
You're worried about it affecting your work? Yeah. Historically, a lot of the times kids are getting older. It's like it's time for a beer with dad. Is it now because cannabis is legal? Is it time for a joint with dad?
I'm not sure how comfortable I am with that situation. However, I don't really think you have smoke a joint when you're having dinner.
So that's kind of a stigma that's attached to pot. Do you think that'll go away with time, or do you think we're kind of stuck with that for a bit?
I think we're stuck with it for a while. However, I think as we move forward as a society, that there'll be a lot less stigma.
I mean, the fact that it's legalized means it's easier to get, and I mean.
So, were you previously a cannabis user? I'm not a cop, don't worry.
No, I'm afraid about my mom seeing this.
Oh, no, your mom's not going to watch this.
Okay. So easy to get, and it's safe too. So that's the two big concerns, how easy it is to get and how safe it is.
That's a big thing for you now that you know where it's coming from. Exactly. You don't have to go to some sketchy dude's apartment and sit there while he feeds his snake.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you're a nurse, so what's your perspective on the change?
Well, the kind of nursing that I do, I actually give health advice, and I don't think that there's really enough information out there for the people who are wanting that kind of information. I think that is great. It's about time. As my husband says, he's never met a wife beater pothead.
That's you never really hear about some guy who got really baked and beat up his wife. Do you yourself partake in the usage of cannabis?
I can't say.
Okay, so sure you do.
That's my mother talking about pot.
Are you guys cannabis users?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. The confidence of youth, eh? They're just like, a lot of people are like, no, I don't really, but you guys are all on it. Now that it's legal, are your habits going to change at all?
No, I don't think so. I think it'll just stay the same. It's
I feel like nowadays people aren't afraid to do it in public because, it's not as of a taboo as it used to be.
No, like back in the day when you guys were like 6 and everyone was weird about doing pot.
Well, and I mean, like you'll hear people be like, oh, like now that it's legal, people are gonna be walking around smoking joints all the time. It's all you're gonna smell. It's like people do it pretty often anyway. So like,
for the most part, nothing is gonna change.
No, it's pretty rampant already. So will you guys go to the same dispensaries, or are you guys gonna go?
I know my regular bud tenders pretty well down at my dispensary back in Hamilton. So it's like.
Bud tenders. That's also a term. I don't know that terminal. No, but it sounds like a great term. Bartender, but for weed. Bud.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
makes perfect sense.
Tender, yes.
Do you guys? And what's your preferred method? Do you guys do edibles? Do you guys smoke joints? Do you do whatever?
I'm a shatter guy.
You're a shatter guy. Oh, right on. So you got some. Are you guys high right now? A little bit. They're a little bit high right now. All right. Well, thanks and fucking happy legalization, I suppose. All right. Take her easy, guys.
There's our new man on the street, Rob Bebenek, and keeping everybody out there smiling. My next guest on this segment is Daniel Pearlstein. He's the Executive Vice President of Strategy for Canopy Rivers, trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol RIV. Daniel, welcome.
Thanks very much, James.
Daniel, it's a brand new day here. It's legalization day. Canopy Rivers is an investment enterprise that is attached to Canopy Growth Corporation, and so you guys are essentially in the catbird seat when it comes to looking at people, new investments, new opportunities in the space. Where are the big opportunities for entities like yours who, other investors might invest alongside going forward in the future?
That's a good question. I think a good start would be explain the idea or the concept of our ecosystem. Rivers is the venture capital investment platform of Canopy Growth, and what we're trying to do is build an ecosystem of complementary cannabis companies that can work together and extract synergies, revenues and costs by working together and collaborating together and with Canopy Growth and benefiting from that halo effect that is working with the largest cannabis company in the world. Mm-hmm. As now we transition to legalization, some new regulations are going to come in that essentially fragment the value chain, allowing new kinds of players. Used to have to be a cultivator to be a cannabis company, but no longer. So we're going to see lots of different ancillary companies coming up, and that's part of where we're trying to focus. But I think the bigger picture, if you kind of take an even bigger step back and look what the Canadians have done and all the years of activism going back to 2001 to 2013 and then switching over the MMAR to the MMPR.
1972.
And then, of course, with the Cannabis Act now coming into force,
right.
There are over 30 countries around the world that are looking at Canada. They've put in their own medical cannabis regulations. And now they say, well, that country started medical and now they've gone recreational. Look at all the taxes and look at all the job creations and look at all the opportunity.
Look at all the wealthy Canadians.
Right. There are many countries around the world that are looking at Canada and holding us to that gold standard. And ultimately, it's that kind of vision that Canopy Rivers is looking to capitalize on.
Okay, so the leadership role that Canada has developed is embodied in the Canopy Rivers sort of value proposition?
Totally. We want to export our excellence and our track record that we've created here in Canada and mirror that in a number of countries around the world.
Sure. All right, interesting. What's the, what in the ecosystem that has been evolved, the whole infrastructure, there are some areas that one might consider overbuilt and some areas that might not yet be sufficiently built. Where do you see overbuilding happening versus underbuilding?
We have a couple big assets on the cultivation side. I think the market, as you know, very, very strongly has been following the cultivation play for a long time. It seems like we have plenty of cultivators, but we have a couple of really key assets in our farmhouse joint venture, as well as the Vert Mirabel joint venture. And we feel these are best-in-class greenhouses, operators who have track records of success in other industries. One of them the largest pink tomato growers in North America in Vert Mirabel, and one of them really the largest greenhouse operator in North America in farmhouse. These are best-in-class operators that we've brought into the cannabis system, and they're our horses and our partners for the cultivation side. We feel that in an industry where I think investors are waiting on the execution, and that might be the biggest gap that many of these smaller, medium-sized players have. We feel very strongly with the partners that we have that they'll be able to overcome that gap. On the side of the portfolio that maybe where could be next or what we might also be looking for would be, I'd say on, it has to do with scaling.
Okay.
A lot of the smaller players and bigger players even, I think, are going to have trouble or hit bumps scaling. And I think one of the ways to really get over that hump is through technology. I think that there's where have been piecemeal technologies, softwares, or hardwares that involved in these businesses. It's been almost piecemeal, where there hasn't been any cannabis-specific real technology plays that have developed over the last few years. I think that important in the ecosystem, not only in Canada for Canopy Rivers, but also globally. How do we connect investees, hemp plays in Italy with intelligence of what's going on here in Canada? How do we connect with, in Western Europe or South America or Australia? How do we connect these companies? I think that there's a big gap where technology can solve a really good need, and I think that'll become more prevalent in the portfolio over time.
Interesting. You recently announced a restructuring of your investment in TerrAscend, and I thought that would be a great sort of model to look at as to how Canopy Rivers interacts with its investees, because that was a mutually beneficial restructuring. It wasn't really a case of one side demanding a better deal.
Right.
So tell me how that works, and how do you interact with companies like TerrAscend?
Sure. That's actually a big part of what we do. It's working with our portfolio, and it's not only providing capital to aspiring cannabis entrepreneurs, it's also about strategic and operational support and bringing years of experience and learnings from Canopy Growth and being able to draw upon some of the best in class in the technical aspects of that company and being able to bestow that knowledge upon our portfolio companies. So it comes with frequent calls with management, identifying a need and solving it with an introduction to another one of the companies.
Right.
So we can find if one company is really good at cultivating and another maybe has some capacity to do some extraction, well then we can put those companies together. That creates revenue for the company, the latter.
Right.
For extraction throughput, maybe on like a toll milling kind of basis, whereas the cultivator then has product that they can get turned into extracts and create their own kind of new branded products. So ultimately, one of the goals we'd like for the ecosystem would be to have product grown at the cultivator that's sent to the extractor. that's sent to the formulator, that's sent to the food processor, the beverage, the vape pen, the edibles, that's sold through a retail outlet, that's tracked, seed to sale, that's covered by a media outlet, and then ultimately that's intelligence from seed all the way to sale. And then by using that, that's actionable intelligence that we can use not only to help understand the industry, but help create and make the portfolio better.
Interesting. So then another one of your portfolio investments is with LiveWell Canada, and you announced that you had realigned its leadership position through the new CEO, David Rendemonte. And so is that sort of, again, a reflection of the involvement of Canopy Rivers in sort of optimizing the management structure to deliver a better sort of team overall to the long-term prospects of the opportunity? Yeah,
so LiveWell is a company that Canopy Growth and Canopy Rivers have a small stake in. And this is a company that has a project both just outside of Ottawa as well as in Quebec. And the founders of that company have a nice history of working with functional foods and hemp-based products that are distributed through supply and distribution partners throughout the country already. So that's really an ability where we can see, hey, how is there a way that this company that has a history of functional foods and taking ingredients and then putting them into products and then putting them on the shelves, how can they kind of make the most of what they're doing? And part of that recent move, along with a few others in terms of a recent acquisition, as well as a couple supply agreements, is that company generally transitioning into, okay, how do we get ingredients and put them into products? And that's ultimately where I think people use this cannabis 2.0 or legalization 2.0. That's ultimately where we want to make some of the smart bets.
Okay, so where else, what other sectors are you looking at right now in terms of, I guess you don't want to exactly notify everybody as to where you're looking.
Here's all the secrets.
That's right. Here's our shopping list, now stay away.
Yeah.
So, but what like where are the, sort of emerging sectors that as a result of an infrastructure that is now more or less getting built out, there are some places that people still haven't really expended enough capital?
Sure. I think somewhere where the general, let's say, public markets might not have as much visibility into would be early stage international plays.
Okay.
And then this is something as an example that we did with our Italian investment Canopar, where we actually worked with a CEO who has a track record in the cosmetics and pharmaceutical industry to actually seed that company and then participate in that seed financing.
Right.
Where we identified an opportunity and then were able to participate in that first or second round of really cultivating a new kind of business. So we're not getting into the fourth, fifth round of financing of international companies. We're looking at countries all around the world where it's federally legal, where medical cannabis regulations looking to start, and maybe even recreational cannabis regulations down the line. We're looking for best-in-class entrepreneurs that have track records of success in other industries and looking to make bets on those management teams within favorable regulatory environments where sometimes we can be in the first or second round of financing, in the seed round or the Series A or the Series B, and be able to provide important strategic and operational insight. And the point is really that there's not a lot of international cannabis companies out there, mostly because they're too immature to be public. Whereas what Rivers does is provide investors opportunity and exposure to emerging markets where we can take some of those same lessons learned in Canada and bestow those upon some of best in class that are starting up, those kind of first movers. So ultimately it would be from that international perspective.
Right. Is it safe to compare an investment in Canopy Rivers to, I mean, I look at it as it's kind of like a sophisticated managed portfolio run by industry experts who have extreme advantages in terms of access to deal flow. And I look at this, the same target investor for whom this would be an appropriate transaction would be the same ones who are looking towards ETFs and or mutual funds because they are not in a position to manage their investments themselves.
Right.
It strikes me that this would be a more, a better play without actually taking on more risk, better chances of a successful experience.
Right, so Rivers is different from an ETF because we're not getting a snapshot of the whole industry of just what's out there. We actually get to be picky. So we can choose the best in class, and we don't have to rebalance, and we don't have to sell the winners and buy the losers and have rebalancing. Rivers essentially represents somewhere between a financial sponsor and a strategic buyer.
Right.
So it's not just capital, it's being able to take capital plus. This is, we ultimately want to be the best allocator of capital in the cannabis sector. This is the kind of stock that we want people to give to their kids and put away and forget about.
Right.
So that their kids can then tell their friends that they own that stock. But it really, ultimately, it's, we appeal to a wide variety of investors because we can help provide a lens and provide clarity and differentiation and expertise to a space that is becoming increasingly crowded with a lot of fly-by-night ideas and get-rich-quick schemes where we want to be long-term greedy.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Daniel, we'll leave it there for now. We'll come back to you in a very short period of time. It's a very dynamic story that we're following with interest. By way of disclosure, Canopy Rivers is a client of the Media Production Division. Thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Next up, we're going to talk to Annamaria Enenajor, and she is the director of the Cannabis Amnesty campaign, and here's what she had to say. Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest in this segment is Annamaria I knew that was going to happen. Enenajor. Did I do it right?
Enenajor.
Enenajor. Damn! Director of Campaign for Cannabis Amnesty. And she's also a partner at Ruby Schiller Enenajor de Giuseppe Barristers and sits on the board of the directors of the Open Democracy Project. Annamaria, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Annamaria, your group, and your groups, I guess more broadly, are advocates for the idea of pardoning Canadians with convictions for simple possession of cannabis. And I have to say that I'm very personally interested in seeing that happen. What exactly is the mindset of the government at this point, given that it's October 17th and cannabis is now legal recreationally, medically, etc.?
Yeah, so the sense that I'm getting from both the public statements that have been made by various high-ranking members of the government, as well as my own conversations with, through my advocacy work with members of the relevant offices, is that this is not an issue that is lost on them. They recognize the importance on Canadians, to the lives of Canadians that this issue has, and they also recognize that this is a logical next step that follows from cannabis legalization. So there's a sense of openness, and there's a sense of understanding the profound impact that cannabis conviction records have on people's lives, as well as just a sheer number of people that this impacts. There are approximately 500,000 Canadians with cannabis convictions on their records. We're not that big of a country. This is a huge number of people that are impacted by this. So my sense is that philosophically, ideologically, the government is not opposed to this, but as we know, it takes more than that to get legislation passed. So there's a lot of strategic considerations, there are timing considerations, and then there's also the nitty-gritty details on how to actualize something like this.
Sure. As an individual who has had a cannabis conviction for possession and has subsequently received the pardon, I can tell you that the limitations it placed on my life are extant to this day. In fact, if you want to apply to be a director of a public company in Canada, you have to disclose your record whether you received a pardon or not. And there's obviously implications for that. And so a pardon from the Canadian government isn't worth the paper it's written on, even from the perspective of somebody who's trying to be a global citizen and business person, because those challenges remain, because those pardons are not recognized by governments external to Canada, especially in the United States.
That's
so there's
correct.
a additional burden of sort of compliance and whitewashing that has to be gone through, and it follows you for the rest of your life. So, you know, my mother was probably right when she said, well, just make it easy on yourself and don't break the law. However, in that the law has now admitted its fallacy by making cannabis legal, it does follow that if it's not illegal now, it shouldn't have been illegal then. In terms of the context of human rights and liberties.
Well, I would agree with that. I also think, just going back to your mom's advice, if you don't want the consequences, don't break the law. The reality is that the consumption of cannabis is something that is so widespread in our society. There are countless people that are doing this and they're not receiving the consequences of it. When we look at the numbers of the people that do suffer the consequences of participating in activity that is so widespread across the population, it is absurdly disproportionate. So you're looking at largely people from racialized communities, racialized neighborhoods, racialized backgrounds, and Indigenous communities. Those are the people that are disproportionately bearing the burden of living with an unlawful, with the consequences of participating in an unlawful activity. So from my perspective, it is unfair that there are people who have to suffer for something that a lot of other people are doing, and they don't have to face those similar consequences.
I could not agree more. We're on the same page here, aren't we? Okay, so what is the process? What do you see happening in terms of, is this something that you're actively moving to get into the government conversation in terms of legislation?
Absolutely. So we've been working quite closely with Murray Rankin, an NDP member of Parliament, who on October the 4th tabled a bill called the Cannabis Expungement of Records Act, and it's a bill that seeks to go beyond what your experience is, which is apply for a pardon and receive a pardon on an individual basis. What we are advocating for is a wholesale expungement of records, which means the deletion of records from people's, from the deletion of entries from people's records and the corresponding police notes and records attached to that, so that they don't have to be concerned about the deficiencies in a pardon the way that you were and the way that you experienced. I think it's very interesting and very telling that you were saying that a pardon is not worth the paper that it's written on, and I think that is why we're requesting that the strategy for this particular issue go beyond merely a pardon, and it go to expunging the records, because people deserve to put this behind them once and for all in totality. There is absolutely no reason why these records should remain.
Right. That's interesting. Well, I got to say, I support you 100% in that endeavor.
We should get you to do an endorsement on our website.
I would love to. It would be my pleasure. I could also tell you that Cam Batley, who's the CCO of Aurora, has expressed to me in no uncertain terms that he very much supports the idea of cannabis amnesty.
Oh, absolutely. Aurora has been a huge support, as a huge sponsor. They actually provided us with $50,000 in order to give us sort of a war chest, a modest war chest, but a war chest to be able to undertake the work that we're doing, because we are all volunteers, and there are expenses associated with this kind of advocacy. They've offered us one of our advisory board positions is occupied by Jonathan Zaid of Aurora, and so they've been providing us with strategic advice as well. He offers a wealth of information and resources given his advocacy background. So we've gotten a lot of fantastic reception from industry. Aurora being sort of our one of the first to approach us and to provide us with generous support. We also have a sub-campaign that we've launched with Doja Haiku called Pardon.life, and it's actually a product line called Pardon, where the proceeds for the sale of all of the items on the Pardon.life website go to fund the campaign for cannabis amnesty. And all of these initiatives, we are driving people to go to our website to learn the facts about the injustices that have happened as a result of cannabis prohibition. And we're asking people to sign a petition that we can ultimately present to the government. Now, we've been fortunate enough to not only work with members of the opposition, so the NDP opposition, so Murray Rankin in support of his bill. I was in Ottawa with him on the 4th when it was announced that he would be tabling it. But also we've had quite productive discussions with members of the government, and I do believe that there is openness there, and it's a matter of now leveraging the impetus to get it done.
Very cool. Okay, well, anything that we can do to help you here, I volunteer all of my resources, including
Fantastic.
my time. And so we'll be looking forward to participating in this, and love to see it happen. We're going to leave it there for now, Annamaria, and we're going to have you back regularly till we get this sorted out. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
So, did you get busted for smoking dope or possession at any point in your career, Ed?
No.
Well,
No.
we'll see.
No, but I did something really stupid as a youth.
Yeah? What'd you do?
I actually went to Jamaica when I was about 30 years old, and I had this idea, you know, because there's so much pot down there, as you know.
Yeah.
I actually thought, well, I'll just sneak back an ounce of Jamaican pot back into Canada, and I thought, well, I'll just put it inside the lining of my jacket, and I'll just fold the jacket, so if they do any of this, they won't feel it because I'll have flattened it out. And
right.
And that's exactly what happened. They actually pulled me over and went through my suitcase, and they were doing this.
And you're just standing there shitting bricks.
Shitting bricks. Shitting bricks. They said, "Sir, are you manufacturing some shit there in the form of bricks?" I said, "That's correct." "And what's your problem?" I said, "I'm a little worried you're going to find the marijuana that I'm smuggling into the country." No, that's how stupid I am. But I mean,
well, you got away with it. Yeah. No, we all do stupid things when you were young.
This is probably the scaredest I've ever been, I think.
I think that's the whole point of this amnesty movement, is that everybody does stupid things when you're young. That's when you're supposed to do stupid things.
Right.
And when you do something stupid as a youngster, it's not supposed to fuck up your life for the rest of your life.
Well, and I mean, and you know.
Anyways, I'm tired of blowhard politicians making all this bullshit.
Yeah, it's all bullshit.
It is such bullshit. You know what? None of those guys ever had the balls to smoke dope or try it out.
They have, but they never got caught.
Or they didn't have the balls to admit it. But either or their daddies got them out of jail because they were connected.
What do you think it costs someone, costs the Canadian government to incarcerate someone in a penitentiary for a year?
Free. It doesn't cost them anything. It costs us all a lot.
No, it costs.
Yeah, taxpayers. It doesn't cost a politician.
You know what the number is? It's about $325,000.
Really? What's the difference between a welfare recipient and a politician in Canada? Nobody votes for a welfare recipient.
Yeah.
I just made that up. That's not bad, eh? Boy, I'm making friends and enemies all over the map today. Yeah, Doug Ford was supposed to come in here and give us some argument about his, his privatizing dispensaries. He didn't show up. I mean, what good are they? That's all I have to say.
Well,
anyways, Justin Trudeau.
Where's Justin?
Justin's not here. We've invited him multiple times. He doesn't want to show up. I was going to point out to everybody that Justin is the guy who drove it into legality. He was the government who did so, therefore vote Liberal. But no, fuck that. He doesn't show up at our show. Don't vote Liberal, vote PC. That's how shallow I am. Anyways,
vote President's choice.
Yeah. Interesting. We can't take calls on the show.
Now look at the JWCA. We talked about it. We liked it. It was down 4 cents. Now it's up 3 cents.
Yeah.
There you
That's
go.
because we talked about it. Look at Juju, sucking hind tit down there at 24.5 cents.
So I guess they're doing their funding at 20 cents.
Yeah, 20 cents.
With a warrant at 30.
With warrant at 30. And an accelerator at 50. Not that that means anything. Although, sometimes it does. Oh, look, the market's closing.
So,
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't know how you do it. I mean, you've put in a full complete day. I put in a complete day by just pretending to be here.
I did my CBDs.
Is that what it is?
Well, I certainly like to think they're a contributor to the... no, I don't know.
You know what?
This was not actually a tough day at all because I didn't go out and party my face off.
Well, you did something smart last night, which I'm...
You know what?
To say that
But you want to see what did happen at all the parties? Because we did send out our 4 East crew, and here's what they came back with.
James, there are several studies that show cannabis can help with age-related health issues. So what I wanted to do is talk to some seniors and get their take on things. And what better place to do that than the town mall? Okay, James, so scratch that idea. Apparently you cannot go into a mall asking seniors about smoking cannabis. You'll get kicked out immediately. Security does not like it. I think it's time for Plan B. The mall idea may have backfired, but luckily for me, I knew of a seniors bingo game going on close by. Would you consider using marijuana as a means of medication?
For the people that need it, they must have it. Yes, I'm in favor for the ones that need it.
For my opinion, it should never be around.
Have you ever used marijuana before?
Not used, but I had one experience with marijuana. It was in 1964 when the Beatles came to the Maple Leaf Gardens. I was a teenager then, and after a while I had to leave the place because of the smell of marijuana. I couldn't stand it.
Would you ever use marijuana as a medicine for aches and pains or anything like that?
No, not at all.
Why is that?
Because I don't need it and I would not want to try it.
Ever?
Never, never.
What if it was in like a cookie?
No, I refuse it.
You don't like cookies?
I like cookies, but not marijuana cookies.
Canopy Growth has recently embarked on a 6-month pilot study with the Ontario Long-Term Care Association. This will be one of the world's largest medical cannabis pilot programs in the long-term care space and will register as many as 500 residents.
So when we do a study, what we hope to find is that many of the things we're focused on are symptom relief, symptom minimization without a substantial negative side effect. And so what we can find is that people are less anxious and the side effect might be giddiness and a bit of hunger. And so what we're trying to do with these studies is show that for many of the symptoms which ail people, the answer shouldn't also become the problem.
We certainly see a fair number of seniors here at the clinic, and a lot of them do come with some stigma and some concerns about it. There is certainly a role for medical cannabis in helping seniors. In fact, a lot of our patients are trying cannabis for the very first time for a variety of conditions, including problems with pain, sleep, anxiety. In terms of specific types of cannabis, we're often encouraging them to go towards oils or capsules as opposed to dry cannabis, which would be inhaled. Increasingly, I think we will see more and more healthy adults and elderly adults with aches, pains, sleep problems, anxiety, using cannabis, particularly the non-psychoactive forms, to better cope with their life and potentially even in the health and wellness space, trying to ease comfort, reduce stress.
For Midas Letter Live, I'm Adamo Barbieri.
I kind of can't wait to get old. Like, I don't know what the hell's wrong with these people. It's going to be fun. They're still, you know what, they're still from
I think if you're mobile, and you're reasonably, if you're mobile, I guess you're probably pretty healthy, and you take care of yourself, and you can do the basics. It's probably not too bad, but I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You know, like...
No, I think that they're missing out. I think they're still locked in the mindset of the past generation where they think, oh, if a doctor prescribes it, it must be good, and if it grows in the ground and a long-haired hippie type is sharing it with his neighbor, it must be bad.
No.
But anyways, that's the generation. That's the last generation that's going to come from the era of prohibition. Because all future generations are going to grow up where there's, hey, it's on the shelf, it's in the fridge.
I was interested to hear when Nathan said that his grandfather was involved in production of marijuana.
You didn't know that marijuana
120 years ago.
Marijuana comes from Germany. You didn't know that?
Marijuana comes from Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. His father was German.
No, but where did it come before Germany?
He got it in Germany.
He probably got it from...
Well, no, you know that the cannabis was broadly grown in the moist river valleys after the recession of the glaciers during the end of the last ice age 12,000 years ago. Yeah. And that's what actually transformed humanity into stationary agronomists as opposed to roaming opportunistic predators, because they were high, they had this cannabis growing in lush river valleys that provided fiber, food, spiritual connectivity.
But they had to when they ate it and got hungry, they had to go and get more.
They had salad. Just use the leaves.
Yeah.
Well, our friend Justin B. Marshall down there is juicing it. So can you imagine starting your day off with a fresh glass of cannabis juice? That's kind of interesting. Well, I'm going to be down there next week, and I'm going to go visit Justin. He's going to give me a glass of his juice.
Are you going down to California?
I'm going to California.
Yeah, well.
Going to California, we're going to shoot some documentary. Now, since that was the party video, now we should go see what the seniors are doing. No, I know. I heard. Anyways, Ivan Ross Vrana was here. He's a part of the Knowlton Hills Knowlton team now. Knowlton Hills Knowlton. Boy, oh boy. Anyways, but he gives us a province by province look at what can be bought, where, by whom, and when across the country. Hey, good morning, and welcome to Midas Letter Live. My guest in this segment is Ivan Ross Vrana. He is the Vice President of Public Affairs of Hill and Knowlton Strategies. Ivan, welcome back.
Thanks very much, James.
It's been 4 years?
4 years.
Since we last chatted.
It's been a while, yeah.
And the landscape has emerged exactly as neither of us expected.
Absolutely. You can't predict it.
However, this week, legalization has arrived for recreational purposes.
Yeah.
Although I always find it a bit misleading to call it recreational because it's more attitudinal adjustment than it is recreational.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
The provinces each have their own game plan. Some of them mimic each other to some degree. Others are completely different from all of the rest. So why don't we just start and go province by province, and we'll start with British Columbia in the west. We'll start on the left and move right. Can you buy it in a store in British Columbia?
Well, they'll have one store up and running, and that'll be a public store. It's supposed to be a mix of public-private. It's amazing to me that the home, you could argue, of Canadian cannabis, with all the myriad of dispensaries. You know, you're from Vancouver originally. You know what it's like to walk down the street in Vancouver.
I interviewed Dana Larson at his dispensary a week ago.
There you go. So only one store legally available in the province of BC, which I find fascinating, but it's not the only province that's in this conundrum, right?
Sure.
For legalization.
So this is the BC on cannabis store.
That's right.
You can't buy it in a store unless you go to the BCSC, and that's got to be in Vancouver.
Yep.
And you might be able to buy it online.
You might be able to buy it online.
And the dispensaries that were illegal have uniformly shut down voluntarily?
Of course not.
Of course not. Okay. So black market's still alive and well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alberta.
So Alberta, again, that's a private system. It's the online is public, private system for retail. Excuse me, a number of stores are slated to open in Edmonton, excuse me. Calgary will only have 2 stores, and as for the rest of the province, it's still rolling out. So the 2 major population centers, again, will have some sort of presence of bricks and mortar, but the issue is today, how easy is it actually to go get it? So Edmonton is leading the way.
Okay, so Alberta is more or less emulating their strategy with liquor and beer.
That's right.
Agencies are allowed to apply and get credited, and then they can sell it. So that's interesting. So would you categorize Alberta as sort of the leader of the pack at this point?
No.
Okay.
And I'll explain why in a sense,
I'll imagine you'll tell me when I get the province
that's right, yeah.
All right, and Saskatchewan.
So Saskatchewan's an interesting, they had about 24 stores awarded by the lottery. It's still not clear how many are up and actually running today. And the online system is all private, so no government presence whatsoever. So again, I think Saskatchewan, it's going to be difficult to actually, if you're in Regina or Saskatoon, to go out and find out which stores are there, which are actually legal and available to distinguish between dispensaries that are illegal and those that are legal.
And is there a robust illegal dispensary market in Saskatchewan and Alberta?
I know there was at one point. I think it's slimmed down a lot, but again, the online presence thing is what is interesting, right? Because there's a robust illegal online presence right across the country.
They deliver within an hour.
That's right.
$99 an ounce.
Sometimes it's within 30 minutes.
Right.
Yeah? Or free.
Okay, and Manitoba.
Again, Manitoba is another interesting case. Public online system will be up and running, or is up and running, excuse me. Private, again, they awarded a number of stores through an RFP process, but it's not clear, for instance, how many are going to be up and running in Winnipeg. So again, we have this kind of interesting situation where it's not exactly clear.
So it'll be black market or nothing, probably. Again.
Yeah, and you will have legal stores there. Again, it's all private, so it's just not clear how many will be ready for the date.
Right. Interesting. We should do a road trip together.
Yeah, I think so. That would be fun. Yeah.
Okay, now tell me about Ontario. We all kind of know what kind of mess that is.
Ontario. I mean, that's the beauty of our democratic system, right? Governments can come in and do what they want to do when they get elected. So we have no stores open. The online system is supposed to go live, and as we know, Shopify is going to be running that on behalf of the province.
Oh.
The plan is to have a series of stores, bricks and mortar, up and running for April.
Okay.
But they're only accepting applications in December, so companies are going to have to move very fast on that.
I see.
And it's not clear about how many one company can own of these sort of stores, right? So the province is still trying to figure that out.
So the stores that they're going to be opening up have to be affiliated with an LP?
No, they don't have to. They actually were quite clear in that legislation. They said a licensed producer can only own one store.
I see.
And usually that's on their land, on their facility property, so that kind of farm gate concept. So I know there's a lot of concern about that, but it's all private bricks and mortar.
Really?
Public
so this
online.
means that technically Midas Letter could open a store on Queen Street if I
if you so apply. I'll help you with that application.
Let's
we
do
those
it.
good.
Okay, another episode.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to Quebec.
So Quebec is, again, another fascinating province. 7 million people, 12 stores open.
That's pretty good compared to the rest of them.
It's not bad at all. And they say they're going to have 17 up and running by, and these are publicly owned stores, by sometime in November. So we have to wait and see
publicly
how that.
Owned. So the province is going to run.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Now, okay, let's keep going. In Quebec, do they have a large black market?
Well, again, one could argue, it's nothing compares to Vancouver, BC overall. Right. In Montreal, I live in Ottawa, been in Montreal quite a lot. There used to be a number of dispensaries in Montreal, but it seems I haven't seen that presence as obvious as it once used to be.
Well, I've seen them shutting them down here over the last couple of weeks rather aggressively. New Brunswick?
So New Brunswick to me is my favorite province when it comes to this. They've, for a population of about 1 million people, they've also got 12 stores up and running, and I think that's actually increasing to 20. So given, they've really gone after that quite aggressively, and again, it's publicly owned stores, publicly owned retail. So they're probably one of the best provinces that are set, that have met this deadline, and they're up and running.
Really? That's interesting. Okay, what about Newfoundland and Labrador?
So Newfoundland and Labrador, they have plans for 30 stores right across the province, and those are private stores. They're opening to allowing an interesting distribution system if it doesn't cover off the entire island and Labrador, given how large it is. So they're looking at sort of different mixes out there.
Okay. Prince Edward Island?
Now, that's another one of my favorite provinces because per capita, they've got 3 stores opening with a 4th one coming online. So, that's a store serving about 100,000 people.
Wow.
So not so bad. And you can cross the island, I think, and I don't want to offend any PEIers, but I think you can get across the island in about 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
So that's not bad.
Yeah. The Northwest Territories?
So no stores in the Northwest Territories. It's all online right now.
Probably they're going to be needed to deliver by drone.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. And they are open now. It was supposed to be public, but they are looking at a private model. They're thinking too, yeah.
And Nunavut?
Nunavut, none. All online.
All online, Yukon.
Yukon, 1 store in Whitehorse.
Okay, now here's a question that, again, we're just going to have to run through the provinces because this issue is also not uniform, and that is the ability to grow 4 plants per family, per household?
Per household. Well, essentially, I think it breaks down to, I think it was Manitoba and Quebec were the only provinces that said they weren't going to allow that.
Manitoba and Quebec, right.
Yeah, but I think they're opening themselves for a bit of a challenge there in the court system because even though it's a recreational distribution system, provinces have full purview over that. What's not clear is how it crosses the line into medical, because medical, you're allowed to grow up to 4 plants, right? What was not clear to me anyway when I looked at the legislation in Quebec and in Manitoba is if you would be allowed to do that for medical purposes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, in your opinion, or from where you sit, do you think that that there's going to be a meaningful disruption of the black market at the outset, and if not at the outset, when?
Well, I do actually think there will be a bit of a disruption overall. It won't be to meet people's expectations because I think they're a little bit unrealistic. I know people said, okay, once it happens, the black market needs to disappear. Well, way back when alcohol was legalized, that didn't happen overnight. Different times, obviously different systems in place. So it will take time, But slowly overall, I think you'll start seeing a decrease. I think police forces across the country are now prepared to be able to shut down at least dispensaries. The online presence will be of a big concern for police forces across the country. So I think there's lots of action that we don't know about happening, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Sure. Okay, what about the limitations on quantity? How much can you buy in a given day, in a given session, over the course of a year? Are there limitations?
Yeah, every single province, with the exception of Quebec, which is really fascinating, it's 30 grams.
Okay.
The interesting thing is, though, if I go to one store and I buy 30 grams, what's to stop me from going to another store in Alberta and getting another 30 grams maximum, right? They're not going to ask for proof that you've purchased. You don't need an authorization card. If you do get stopped by a police officer and you've got 60 in your car, then there's going to be an issue. Of course, they can't come into your home to do that. Quebec, what they're saying is you can have in your home stored up to 150 grams. So that's the one province that's interesting. That's
and so in the provinces now, if you can grow 4 plants in your house, and I happen to know that you can you could yield out. You could yield up to 450 grams per plant of dried premium flower.
Yeah.
Now, if you're traveling across, going to visit Auntie May in Newfoundland, with you bringing her a bag of care package, how are they going to deal with it if you can say, well, no, this is what I've grown, well within my rights?
Well, I think that's a great sort of issue. I would suggest you travel with the 30 grams for now, even though you might have the right
to. That's not enough.
Well, then you have to go to the government-run store or the private store in that province to top up.
Okay, so interesting. And now, the age that you have to be across the country?
So in every single province, again, except Quebec, it's 19. Quebec, it's 18, but with the election of the new government in Quebec, they've mused about changing that to be 21.
21.
Yeah, so it follows all the liquor laws essentially across the country. So 19 is the age right across all the provinces. 18 in Quebec, but we'll see how quickly this new government in Quebec will be able to change that, and if they still want to do that.
You bet. Now, what about where you're allowed to smoke it?
Okay, so now we don't have a pattern to follow whatsoever, right? It's generally most of the provinces follow the rules about where you can actually smoke a cigarette, a tobacco product. However, what we're seeing is municipalities are getting involved in this debate. So in Halifax, for instance, right now, they are saying no tobacco can be smoked anywhere on the streets. And that then applies to cannabis, which is fascinating, right? They are allowing restaurants to apply for a designated area on tobacco. We don't know if that's going to apply to cannabis yet, but that's the type of things that you're starting to deal with. In Ottawa, my hometown, Algonquin College said you can't smoke on campus anymore, anywhere. Outdoors, indoors, whatever. And they said we came up with this law because it was for cannabis.
So in many respects, if you think about it, I mean, in Vancouver for the last 5 years, you've been able to more or less walk down the street puffing a joint and walk right by a cop. He's not going to say anything. And generally, when you go to college and school, to slip out into the smoking area and honk back a doob is a rite of passage, one might argue. And so, especially when it comes to establishments where people drink, bars,
going outside.
The ritual of going out for a reefer is,
in the dead of winter.
Exactly, in the worst of conditions. So, does this mean that we've actually got a situation where the cops are going to be busting people left, right, and center for doing what they've always been doing their whole lives?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I hope not in that sense, because I think they need to apply their resources somewhere else about worrying about whether people are smoking on the street or so forth. I know people will. Generally, all the rules follow. You can't smoke near your school, you can't smoke near a playground. I think those rules are reasonable, but to try to be able to control that behavior, and I'm not a fan of smoking whatsoever. I don't do it, but again, there's a bit where it crosses the line, right? So maybe it's the role for bylaw officers to hand out a ticket as opposed to police.
Right.
So I wonder how that is going to do it. And I guess the key thing that I keep on talking about when I do things like this is when government's coming up with these policies and police forces, I hope that fine, you've got it, you want to try it, but adaptability has to be the key as to what you learn and don't learn and what things are the hard lessons. And so hopefully that will change over time.
All right, well that's great insight, Ivan. I thank you for your participation. We'll come back to you again and have you back sooner than 4 years.
Okay, well that's great. Thanks very much, James.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
So, did you buy any cannabis today in any of these stores today, Ed?
No, I don't, because all my friends, I didn't because all my friends bought it, and I know if I need some really badly, I can go to them.
You just get it from your friends?
Yeah.
Do they ever accuse you of having like short arms or
Oh, yeah,
anything?
of course, of course. Of course.
But your dope's for free.
You know what though? Yeah, then they, you know, then they can say, hey, you know, this Ed guy really likes me.
Yeah.
Because I support him.
Yeah. Well, that's just it.
I know. How long are they going to support me for, really?
How long are they going to put up with that bullshit? That's what I want to know, Ed.
Bullshit.
They're going to be like, come on, Ed, it's legal now. Buy your own, goddammit. Mind you, I spent a great deal of money on the website today of the Ontario Cannabis Store. And I noticed a really strange coincidence today. I don't know if I'd consider it an actual coincidence, but have you bought from the OSC today?
No.
Do you know why? Because the OSC doesn't sell cannabis. The OCS sells cannabis. The OSC is the securities regulator of Ontario.
Oh.
The OCS is the Ontario Cannabis Store. So I think it's funny that there's going to be a lot of confusion between those two websites. I wonder how many people tried to buy a bag of grass from the Ontario securities regulator today and were a little bit disappointed when all they got was a list of people whose names they vaguely recognized as former brokers. Anyways, it's going to be a little bit of fun.
We don't have any pot for sale, but if you call these derelict brokers that register with us, they probably can get you some.
Yeah, no, I know, it's exciting.
Interesting. Well, yeah, is it today? You know, is it really under the category of much ado about nothing?
Well, I think two main things happened today. A, I successfully purchased
marijuana online.
$160.60 worth of cannabis from the government of Ontario, the same one that incarcerated me for having slightly less than this a mere 40 years ago. So the irony of that is not lost upon me.
How long were you incarcerated for?
How long was I? Well, generally overnight. You go, you know, simple possession. You get arrested. They release you.
But this hasn't stopped you from going into the U.S.
It did. It had times where I had to go get a waiver and all of this. Now I can get into the U.S. They're just like, oh yeah, you again. The guy with the waiver is always smoking dope on that show. You can come in. But no, that's you know. So this whole thing about the amnesty thing is just like, oh my gosh, don't even go there. I mean, it's just not worth it. But so here's my point. You know what number order I was today at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Order number 64,286. So I just want to make the point that
when did you buy it today? What time?
At about 3 o'clock. So I want to make the point that the Ontario Cannabis Store has done a hell of a job getting this site up, running, and at this time of day, they still have 50 SKUs of different products available. Granted, mostly dried flower. Granted, mostly high test THC, because all the low potency stuff, that's the first stuff to go.
Is it?
Yeah.
People are testing.
Well, you know, what portion of the population wants to get high as fuck? The portion that's under, well, except for you, of course. You happen to share that with the portion that's under 25.
Oh.
So this is, you know, revealing.
Are you trying to tell me I'm immature?
No, I'd say you're youthfully minded. I'd say you've got youthful enthusiasm on your side.
Youthful exuberance?
Well, after you smoke this cannabis, yes, I'm sure you will.
I don't think cannabis gets you all charged up, though. It's more of a...
Well, it depends. If you mix it with some things.
If you...
But you're not yet legal.
But now CBD gets you more motivated as opposed to THC. You're motivated to do nothing.
CBD, I don't know. So I did...
That's your favorite, CBD?
Yeah, I did 20 milligrams of CBD today, which I usually do every day, and it helps me stay focused on the tasks at hand. I have a better sort of attention span for people I'm listening to in the chair across from me. Finally, I didn't realize you were actually giving me valuable feedback. And I have a fantastic sleep. So CBD for wellness. I'm going to say homeostatic effect is undeniable, at least in my own personal experience and observation. Some people are going to throw placebo effect at me, to which I say, go fuck yourself. Anyways, but yeah, no, I think that's great. Did you go to any of the parties last night, Ed?
No, sir.
nor did I, but Suzanne, who's lying on the floor in the control room as we speak.
Lying on the floor?
She's lying on the floor in the control room. She's apparently a little bit disabled today.
Is that lying on the floor prostrate?
She's prostrate on the floor.
Yeah.
No, prostrate is, no. Prostate?
No.
Okay, anyways, our partners, the 4 East production crew, and Suzanne went to all 4 parties last night.
All
and
4.
Here's a little feedback from what they saw last night.
Today, recreational cannabis is legal in Canada. Legal to sell, legal to buy, legal to smoke, and that's a cause for a celebration. At the Drake Hotel, 6 women stand up and share their cannabis stories.
Legalization for me is really about the perceptions changing, because on a day-to-day basis, my practical life, not much is going to change. I've been smoking weed for 10 years, and quite publicly for 5 or 6 years. So for me, nothing is going to change. What I'm excited to see is other people's perceptions about cannabis change.
Over at the Tokyo Smoke Party, people are getting ready to light up.
I've worked my whole life for this day.
I'm definitely going to smoke a little, but after midnight, keep it legal.
Well, it's kind of a validation of like my whole life. I mean, I've been hiding the idea of taking cannabis for more than 50 years.
It's amazing. I feel like it's a moment in history that we're all living through right now. But personally, I feel like I'm still going to be smoking weed before and after. So I don't know. It's still great though. All right, at 12 o'clock, we're lighting up.
For some, it was like New Year's Eve, except this time, they were ringing in the right to smoke cannabis.
This is the end of prohibition as we know it. We love tonight.
And we're so excited. Anytime you can be part of a new thing, like getting rid of the prohibition on cannabis, it's an amazing day. I'm supporting all the cannabis users. I'm not a user myself, but hey, you know what? If everyone enjoys it, then I'm all for it.
And as the clock struck midnight, the moment we've all been waiting for had finally arrived. And people could not wait to get outside to have their first legal smoke. For Midas Letter Live, I'm Adamo Barbieri.
Wow, that was fun.
How about that, eh? See what we missed?
See what we missed. I was just going to say, but maybe we didn't miss it because we saw it.
Well, you know what? Now we're going to go to all those clubs tonight. We won't have to stand in line to get a drink. We can smoke a joint outside, and we can get high as fuck.
So if you can go outside and have a smoke, you can go outside and have a joint.
You no longer have to hide.
But you can't smoke it, obviously, anywhere you can't smoke a cigarette, right?
That's the rules.
So let's say I duck into an alley.
Is it a non-smoking alley or a smoking alley?
Smoking alley.
Well then, light it up.
Light it up.
Light it up.
And you're saying it's legal?
I'm telling you, it's legal. They've been saying it all day long on all these. It's legal.
You're making this shit up.
No, I'm not kidding. It's legal
you're
now.
Telling me legal's it's marijuana is now legal.
I just ordered $160 worth of weed from the government of Ontario.
Fake weed.
Well, it says it's going to be here in 2 to 3 days, and I'll tell you if it's fake weed or not. But it shouldn't be because I got a package of pre-rolls of indica from Aurora. I got a package of pre-rolls. What is indica? Indica is one of the 3 subspecies of cannabis: Cannabis ruderalis, Cannabis sativa, and Cannabis indica.
Is that THC or CBD or both?
Actually, the both packages I ordered are equal: 15% THC, 15% CBD.
Yeah.
Look at Jimmy Fairbairn's texting me already. Are you out for a beer? It's like, what is he thinking? That's all we do is run around and drink beer with the likes of these itinerant accountants.
Reprobates.
Reprobates, exactly. Ed, that concludes the longest continuous broadcast we have ever done. High fives to that. I think we deserve a drink.
Hey, wait a minute. Another high five. Whoa!
That's it. Oh, you are. Anyways, there's our show for today.
Yeah.
Ed and I are going to...
Who's bad? We bad. We bad.
We're going to go out now and smoke some marijuana. We're going to go out and have some drinks. I don't think so. Where's those microphones? Don't forget to subscribe, like, tell your friends, etc. And feel free to send us your own little clips that we'll stick into our live broadcast. If you want to be part of the Midas Letter family, come on in. Our Skype address is Midas Letter. Send us anything you want.
Yeah.
That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with our regular programming starting at 3 p.m. till 4:30 with a roster of fantastic guests, including Lenny Clough from Body and Mind will be here. Actually, I think it'll be Robert, the CEO, not Lenny. We might have Cody Karubia here from
I'd love to see Cody.
YOLO, exactly. And yeah, just a great roster of guests. Oh, Steve Gormley's going to be here from Juju. There you go. There's a lineup for tomorrow. We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great evening. Don't get too high.